Ladies and gentlemen, the family is going to be entering the sanctuary. I ask everyone to please rise. Officiating this morning, is Rabbi Rebecca Benoff and Rabbi Evan Moffick. Please be sure that your cell phones have been turned off. After the family enters the sanctuary, everyone can be seated as one community. Then we'll begin the sacred ceremony. Ladies and gentlemen, you may be seated.
We gather today to remember Judith Genesen, and join our hearts to give comfort and strength to her family. Mourning is a time filled with many emotions and memories, both bitter and sweet. We begin our service today with the recitation of psalms and prayers, thus linking Judy's life with the millennia-old tradition of the people Israel and the eternity of God. Mourning is the price we pay for having the courage to love others. Even in grief, we know that the wonder of human life is too complex, too magnificent to be memorialized in endless pain. The gifts of spirit that Judy has given us cannot be measured or weighed, nor can they be lost or even tarnished by time. Even in our darkest hours, we know that some of their light and their warmth will always be with us, bringing comfort and courage, and in the fullness of time, healing and peace. Turn to Psalm 121, Esa Enai. I turn my eyes to the mountains. From where will my help come from? My help comes from Adonai, maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way. Your guardian will not slumber. See, the guardian of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. Adonai is your guardian. Adonai is your protection at your right hand. By the day the sun will not strike you, nor the moon by night. Adonai will guard you from all harm. God will guard your life. Adonai will guard your going and coming, now and forever.
Shall
It is a fearful thing to love what death can touch. A fearful thing to love, hope, dream to be and oh, to lose. A thing for fools this, and a holy thing to love. For your life has lived in me, your laugh once lifted me. Your word was gift to me. To remember this brings a painful joy. 'Tis a human thing, love, a holy thing, to love what death has touched. Adonai, what are we that you have regard for us? What are we that you are mindful of us? We are like a breath. Our days are like a passing shadow. We come and go like grass, which in the morning shoots up renewed and in the evening fades and withers. You cause us to turn to dust, saying, "Return, O mortal creatures." Would that we were wise, that we understood where we are going. For when we die, we carry nothing away. Our glory does not accompany us. Mark the wholehearted and behold the upright. They shall have peace. Adonai, you redeem the souls of your servants, and none who trust in you shall be desolate. In Hebrew, there's a traditional phrase that is Eshet Chayil. It means woman of valor. It is used to describe a woman who is able to balance it all, take care of her family, have her own passions, and yet amongst all of it, she continues to be a light to everyone around her. From hearing the beautiful stories and learning more about Judy, it is so evident that she was a true Eshet Chayil, a true woman of valor. Throughout her life, she showed resiliency. She showed passion, whether it was for taking care of the kids, changing the diapers of the grandkids, or whether it was going back to school, studying library sciences, and truly having this great passion for her work. She was a true Eshet Chayil, a woman of valor. And even towards the end of her life, she was a light to everyone who met her. She never was in a room without a smile, and everyone who knew her seemed inspired by her. And so it only feels appropriate that the love that she shared, not only with Lou, but the love that she shared with her family, is shared back today in the words of those loved ones. And so it is my honor to welcome up Henry to share some words first.
Hi, I'm Henry Blinder, and I'm Judy's oldest nephew, and I guess that's why I get to come up first. This picture is too small to see from the back of the room there, but I guess they'll be posting it later. It's a picture of me at age 3, before my brother John, in New York with the Levin sisters, my mother Henriette and my aunt Judith, and we're in the backyard there. I know you can't really see it, but I'll describe it. The sisters are both hugging me, and I have this blissed out happy look on my face. Why? I knew I was in good hands with both Levins, and always would be. There's nothing like a Levin hug. As grown-ups, whenever my brother John and I got back to Chicago, we would make a beeline for Lou and Judy's apartment at East Delaware, right nearby. We'd get off the elevator and wait at the apartment door. You always knew what would happen next. The door opened, and there was my Aunt Judy. And Lou, with his booming voice, would be somewhere in the back or in the kitchen. But Judy was standing, sort of barricading the long hallway, arms wide open. Next, she would grab your face. You could not get past her. She would look deeply into your eyes for a moment or two. And Aunt Judy had a way of seeing right into your heart. "How are you? Really?" she'd ask. "So good to see you." Then the hug. Now this was a welcome, and you knew you were in good hands. Judy had a way of speaking to you, softly, quietly, firmly, but always getting to the heart of things, always getting to your heart. My Aunt Judy meant the world to me, as does her family, my cousins, all brilliant and talented. It's amazing. I'm not sure why, but early on, they made all of us a true part of their extended, blended family. Through the years, my cousins and their kids have been so generous to share their own families and their lives with me and my dear wife, Ruth. To me, that is Judy's true legacy, for which I will always be grateful. Thank you to all of Judy and Lou's family for all their hugs over all those years, And thank you most of all to my dear, dear Aunt Judy for being the heartbeat of our family. I love you and will hold you in my heart always.
And it is my honor to welcome up John to continue to share some beautiful memories.
First of all, I want to thank all the family and friends for coming and sharing this with us. It's very meaningful. As Henry alluded to, he and I grew up in New York, away from Chicago, the only ones that were not part of the Chicago clan. And we would see Judy and her family, my cousins, about a week, maybe 2 weeks out of each and every year. And it was always a highlight to be able to get together with each and every one of them. And as you will hear throughout this ceremony today, Judy had an unearthly ability to make you feel like you were the only one in the room, the only one that she was talking to, and everything else was kind of separate and different. You always felt her love, her attention, and her focus. And for me, that was always so deeply meaningful. I want to share two, I think for me, of her most important impacts on my life in many ways. The first is that when Judy and Lou created a blended family with 2 kids during the week and 4 kids on the weekend, I learned through the years that their strategy was, we'll go have a regular family during the week, and when Mark and Lisa showed up on weekends, we were all together. That was the focal point. And I had a blended family in Northern California many years later, and the woman I was with at the time, Sherry, and her 3 kids, we learned from how successful Judy and Lou were with putting their family together and putting their family first. So we learned, because we only had the kids on the weekend, we learned that we would be adults during the week. And on the weekend, it was all about the children. And I will say the success of that is measured by the fact that 30 years later, I'm not involved with their mom anymore. These 3 kids invite me to every wedding, every birth, every graduation. They're coming to my daughter Hannah's wedding in the fall, in about a month. And these people are so devoted to the life that Sherry and I created for them together. And it's really all because of what Judy and Lou created for Mark and Lisa and Debbie and David. So I'm eternally grateful to have had that experience, to have learned from it. The other is, I don't know, maybe it's a Levin's sister kind of a thing, but Judy's going back to school and learning library sciences was mentioned earlier. My mother also was the first woman in an affluent New York suburb to go back to school. I was 7, and she created a world for herself and became a very successful career person, just like Judy. And so I look at Judy and Hank, my mom, as 2 women that were at the vanguard of the feminist movement, even though they weren't strident feminists per se, although they probably were in moments. But they set an example for what women could do that weren't doing it at that moment in time to the way that things are going on right now. And so for Judy, I admire you and your efforts so immensely. Your ability to take care of your family, take care of your husband, live a full and important life, and becoming the president of the Law Librarians of America, just astonishing at the stage in life that she was at. So I just want to honor Judy. She has always been there for me, my family, and my loving cousins, and to all of her friends. Thank you.
It is my honor to welcome up David next to share with us some words about his mother.
Before I start, I want to thank Kim. You took us back to all those services where we sat next to Judy and Lou, and the music of Max Janowski that we grew up with at KAM resonates in this wonderful place. I'm Judy's firstborn. Our good friend David, when I asked him, how do you write a eulogy? He said, well, why don't you write her a love letter? And I said, well, Patty and I have been married for 37 years, and every time I say I love you, she says, well, what do you love about me? So maybe this will help. Dear Mom, I love you. How many ways, all these years, have we said that to each other? When I was young, I loved you because I thought you were the most beautiful woman in the world. I mean, you had me at hello. Actually, you had me when you were 20. So amazing. Judy, you were married at 18 and a mom at 20, at an age when many people today don't even know which end is up. You knew one thing. You loved your family, and that was enough. I love you for all those trips you took Debbie and me downtown to Marshall Fields. Oliver Sholem. You can look at the toys, she said, or I'll buy you a book. That's how our library grew, including all the Oz books you loved growing up. They inspired you to play library when you were a child, making out book checkout cards for imaginary readers. As she thought when she was young, all that information, it needs to be organized. I love you. I said that when I went off to Europe. After graduating high school, traveling through youth hostels in Paris and London with my friend David Halprin. I love you, you said to me, even though I was going first, and you had never been. A dream of yours ever since Gene Kelly stole your heart in American in Paris, your favorite movie. But you and Lou made up for it. Traveling the world, not in youth hostels, and of course, always coming back to Paris. Congrats, Mom. You won that one. In fact, a little known fact about Judy, on a trip, she and Lou were at a bus stop in Nice when she saw an ad for a monthly bus pass. Well, she took that idea back to her job at the CTA library. She did a research project about other transit systems, and voila, monthly passes. I love you. I'd say that to you and Lou in my 20s, when I'd come over for dinner on Sunday and sit on your couch. Yep, I didn't know which end was up. You always gave me reasons to believe in myself. I love you. I said that to Lou when you helped me pick out the engagement ring I gave Patty. For all the ways you loved her, I will always be grateful. And even for the last days of your life, it was a sacred journey for us to be with you. What a privilege. I love you. I said that to you when you first met Jack and Kelly, our kids. Loving them every day you were with them, even through, as Lou called it, this damn disease, the dementia of these last years. Still, your face always shined with happiness when we all visited you and when you met your dear great-grandkids, Jude, and then Josie Lou, just 1 week before the ambulance took you from the Clare. I love you because you were also one of the bravest people I've ever known. Brave to get married and embark on a journey of parenting so young. Brave to decide to get a master's degree in library science, and you stuck with it. Delighting in what you were learning, even though Stan, our first dad, was declining from his bipolar disorder. Still, through school and parenting basically solo, you took us in the evenings to Michael Reese to visit him during his inpatient stretches. You graduated with your master's degree in June of 1966, writing your thesis on a Smith Corona typewriter. That was the month Stan took his life and left us. How did you do it? Brave to embrace your career and grow professionally by such leaps and bounds, embracing and mastering every new challenge, always by building relationships. You had a genuine interest in others, made other people feel so at ease, and just radiated warmth. That was Judy right to the end. Brave, in addition to your dementia, you survived 2 heart attacks, seizures, and other health episodes. Brave when it took all your courage to allow us to take you out of your room and into the hallway at the Claire, over that line in the carpet between your safety and the scariness of the unknown. But you summoned that courage, strengthened by the love and encouragement of your wonderful caregivers, Vicky, Crown, Sheila, Doris, Maria, Elhan. Debbie won't mention them, and some of them are here today. We all remember those wonderful smiles you gave us that made our days. And Judy, you won the ultimate bingo game. You filled your card with love for everyone. And how poetic the ending was. Northwestern Hospital didn't have a hospice, and we needed to find a place where you'd be comfortable for your last days. We called the wonderful people at Swedish Hospital, and the voice on the other phone answered, "This is Glenda." Of course, how perfect. Maybe not Glenda the Good from the land of Oz, but now you're over the rainbow with Lou. We love you, Mom. That's from all of us.
We continue with these beautiful memories and stories, the words of Debbie.
Good morning. Thanks for being here. I'm Judy's eldest daughter, for those who don't know me, but I know an awful lot of you. What will last about Judy in my heart, and I hope in all of our hearts, is the memory of her warmth and kindness, her graciousness, her smile, her laugh, her hugs and kisses, and above all, the love in her heart that included everyone around her from her earliest days as a sunny, curly-headed child of the 1930s to her last days in memory care, surrounded by the beautiful angels, as we thought of them, who never left her side and who kept her as safe and happy as possible, even when her speech, her capabilities, and even Prince Lou, the love of her life, were no longer present. Until the end, the sparkle and light in her beautiful blue eyes still flashed whenever she looked at someone she loved, and she loved many people, especially babies, especially the babies who were part of her family. When I think of my mom when I was a tiny child, I remember a beautiful, elegant woman. When she went out for the evening dressed to the nines, the scent of Chanel No. 5 would fill the air as she kissed us goodnight and would linger after she left. As David remembered, she'd often come home from a trip downtown and surprise us with new books she thought we would like. She was always right, except for the time she bought me the Patchwork Girl of Oz she had found at a yard sale. The drawing on the cover scared me so much I made her take it away. Very few pictures exist of the difficult few years she was raising David and me, mostly on her own, as David has discussed, when Stan, our first dad, succumbed to mental illness and lengthy periods of hospitalization. Over the years, as David and Judy and I were all in school together, she, as David said, I've been repeating it, but I want to say it again for emphasis, she juggled it all, defying the odds, while caring for her husband and trying to coax him back to health, while raising 2 children on her own, while protecting us from trauma as well as she could. Somehow she figured out how to make ends meet and how to make a very strange few years feel almost normal. Her courage and selflessness were extraordinary, especially in an era when Stan's illness was not well understood or accepted by many around her. She often had to cope with her situation without much support. I have a vivid memory of standing in the door of my bedroom one night, seeing her at the family bill-paying desk across the hall, the pile of bills lit by lamplight, her head in her hands as she cried out, "I can't do this." She never knew I saw her, but what I know now is that she could do this, and she did do this. Another memory from that time is very strong. The day she came to find me in my elementary school cafeteria to let me know she had passed her comprehensive exams and was set to get her library degree. I remember her excitement, her pride of accomplishment, her strength, her power. I was so proud of her. Stan died just a few weeks later, as David mentioned. Judy was courageous facing Stan's death. She was selfless helping David and me adjust. She put us and our needs first, always. We never took that for granted, but looking back, it's possible that we did not understand the depth of her generosity and her guts. After those difficult and sad years, she more than deserved a change of fortune. The fates smiled on her then and continued to smile for more than half a century. Her best friends, Al and Barbara Gerby, had a very small dinner party one night about 6 months after Stan died. Present were Al and Barbara, their children Gail and Ralph, who join us today, and the guests of honor, Lou and Judy. The Gerbys had casually asked Lou to pick Judy up to bring her to dinner. Never mind that this meant he had to drive to Hyde Park from 86th Street to get to Judy and bring her to and from dinner on 91st Street. Al and Barbara probably figured out correctly that the car rides would give them a chance to check each other out. So began an epic love story that lasted 55 years. The love between Lou and Judy, as anyone who ever knew them will agree, was remarkable, beautiful, enviable, enduring. What's more, Judy always wished she had been able to have 4 children. 2 miscarriages after I was born may have persuaded her temporarily that this was not meant to be, but when Lou and Judy married and she became a parent to Lisa and Mark, she finally had the family she had dreamed of. As everybody knows, Lou and Judy were classy, they were cool, and above all, they were always beautifully dressed. Judy had always wanted to travel and see the world. Once she and Lou found each other, their spectacular adventures began. Each trip was a marvel to her, the details meticulously recorded by her in a series of travel diaries and in albums of photographs. For 40 years, they made trips to Europe every year. They always spent part of each trip in Paris. For the last decade or so of their travel, they spent a month each fall in a beautiful and stylish, of course, apartment on Rue Madame, right near the Luxembourg Gardens. David's daughter, Kelly, and her future husband, John, visited them there. So did David and Lisa and I. We got to see a fantasy come to life. Much has been said about Judy's career, but I wanted to mention, besides her work with the American Association of Law Libraries, she was a leading figure in the International Federation of Library Associations. She is in the Special Libraries Hall of Fame, everybody. It's in Atlanta. You can see the plaque. This brought her and Lou to meetings in far-flung places like China, Scandinavia, and Russia, where she and Lou witnessed the fall of the Soviet Union firsthand in Red Square in 1991. Towards the end of his life, Lou was reflective about many things. A favorite topic of his was his pride in Judy's accomplishments. He would say, imagine her speaking before a convention of nearly 3,000 people. He was still astounded years later, making sure that we knew, and that we would make sure others knew, just how fabulous she was, not only personally, but professionally. She enjoyed a lasting, meaningful career in an era that was not the norm for women, especially for mothers. She began that process due to her own drive and curiosity. Then it became a necessity. Then it became a meaningful and deeply satisfying vocation. Judy was a role model to me. Near the end of her professional life, when I got my first meaningful job, she mailed me the snazzy leather business card case that I had once given her as a gift. This is for you now, she wrote in the accompanying note. She knew how and when to pass the torch, and I still cherish that little leather case. Both Lou and Judy were natural mentors to all 4 of us and to many others, many of whom are here today. We have heard beautiful stories from nieces, nephews, young friends, co-workers about their concern, care, and attention. They were wonderful counselors, and they always were right. They were always right, they were. They approached others with an open heart and an open mind, and they listened. They really listened. Judy and Lou loved their friends, especially Barbara and Al Gerby, Joan and Joe Silvern, Natasha and Bill Deutsch, Larry and Barbara Owen, and Joanne and Doug Schroeder, who are here with us today. Lou and Judy loved the cultural life of Chicago, the opera, the symphony, the theater. Their children, what they really loved were their children and their grandchildren. I was going to say about their wardrobe. Their children and grandchildren have been lucky enough to inherit favorite pieces from their incredible wardrobes. And every time I wear something that was Judy's, I get complimented. And I always have to explain, this was my mother's. Judy adored each of the partners we married. She was thrilled when grandchildren followed, and in turn adored each of their grandchildren's partners. Lou and Judy, her grandchildren will agree, was pretty much perfect as grandparents. You'll hear a bit more about that in a few moments. After Judy and Lou lived long enough to find joy as grandparents, Lou and Judy lived long enough to find joy as great-grandparents to Silas, Ezra, Jude, and Obi. After Judy lost Lou in 2022, her best days were when the little people came to visit, and she greeted Rhea and Josie Lou. And one of the last things she was aware of at the very, very end of her life was that her beloved Claire was about to give birth to little Jerry, making 7 great-grandchildren in all. To know Judy was to love her, and she instantly loved you right back. Even in her last years, even in her greatly diminished condition brought on by what Lou called this damn disease, even with her ability to speak nearly gone, the sight of a loved one brought a sparkle to her eyes, a smile to her face as she reached out her hands to hold those of whoever stood before her, as she reached out to give and receive a kiss. And in spite of her condition, she always recognized us all the way to the very end, which we're grateful for. Though her illness inevitably took much away from her, she was blessed to be helped by her extraordinary gifted caregivers. David has mentioned them. Vicki, who first came to work with her while she and Lou still lived in the world headquarters at 200 East Delaware, and who stayed by her side 12 hours a day, 4 days a week until the very end, also crowned Sheila, Doris, and her 2 night caregivers, Maria and Elham. Each of them saw the glow of goodness and kindness that never left her. Each of them came to love her. Each of them brought blessings to the quiet end of a beautiful life. She even made one last buddy, her friend Rita, who joined her for bingo every Friday without fail, and who gave her a nickname, Shana Madel, Yiddish for beautiful young woman. She truly was a Shana Madel, beautiful inside and out. How lucky we all were to have her in our lives.
I invite up Mark to continue to share some beautiful words.
Notable that my electronically facile elder siblings are using paper. So I have some planned stuff here, but thought that I would first want to thank everybody for joining us here today. And then secondly, to best give you a concise view of what my life changed to so magically when I was 8 years old. You just saw our elder statesman, my brother, my sister, really beautiful stuff I've been infused with since I was 8 years old, and has become a big part of who I am. When Judy and my dad got married, the most commonly referenced toast is, happiness is when a best friend marries a best friend. I thought that was pretty amazing at the time. We were infused at the reception by my brother's wisdom about the long, winding road of life that we would be traveling down. I don't think he'd anticipated at the time that months later he would learn I had asthma and he would be trading a new baby brother for Farron the cat. But what that led us on was this amazing journey where I not only got a stepmother, I got a second mother, and I got a lifelong, durable best friend. The views that we had from her time in Hyde Park, and thinking about the essence of her and what she imparted to me, because clearly I had weekends in Hyde Park, but my life was very different during the week. And what she infused most importantly for me, I think, was this best of the spirit that she had growing up from her parents, her life experience. Subliminally, although she never talked about it, the amazing courage and resilience of her life story, guys, is just unbelievable. From unspeakable tragedy to rising like a phoenix, and not allowing any of us in our darkest, saddest moments to realize how we were learning from her guidance about the strength and focus, and that we all have in us to move forward in such a beautiful way. And so as I got older, I realized that I was gaining someone who was a best friend who seemed to be so focused based on what she got from synagogue growing up, the spirit of Jacob Weinstein, what she got from her time in the sisterhood, what was passed on to her, what she was hoping to pass on to others, and then this really beautiful sense of collectivism that she got as a true Hyde Parker, as 16-year-old, 15-year-old graduate of lab school, and then going to the University of Chicago, and never forgetting and being grateful for the time she had at the college and with Dean Hudgens, in whom she spent her life trying to infuse us with the best of, the liberal arts education that she got. And it wasn't just theory, it was what she did, with her actions every day. It took me a while to figure that out as a young adult. When I was in public school on the north side, while Debbie and David were lab school folks getting infused with the best of lab school, she was often curious of the public school view. And it really wasn't until I took a great books course my senior year and started talking to her about Plato's Apology and Leviathan and Walden Pond, the barn, Walden Pond, that I really got a sense of her view and where her view came from and what drove her in so many beautiful ways. And then as I embarked on my own journey, she pointed out really the importance of being independent thinkers, but also the difference between just being an independent thinker and being a critical thinker. She understood Hyde Park very well. She understood the theories of Hyde Park very well. She was trying to understand the world very well. And as I journeyed south of the Mason-Dixon line, she really remarkably embraced, the curiosity of a different approach and a different way of life. She supported me remarkably through my 4 years at Vanderbilt in Nashville. And it took her all of about 2 hours on a Sunday afternoon jazz brunch at the top of the Peabody Hotel before she pulled me aside and gave me really the only command I ever got from her in my entire life, which was, if you don't marry this girl, you're an idiot. Notably, one generation later, after just a meal, she pulled Emma aside. She was a little bit more polite with Emma, but said, hey, this guy Jacob, you got to do this. So she had a remarkable way of ferreting through what was real, what wasn't real. And I think as we all think about the beautiful metaphor of walking down the hallway of 26 to 26A, knocking on the door and waiting for this amazing embrace, and being welcomed into the house, and sitting down at the dining room table and talking about all matters important and unimportant and the world. And when we spoke last about a year and a half ago, I talked about how I dreaded the time when that would end. And over the last 19 months since we were last together, I mentioned, how I felt like I was veiled by my father's spirit. And for the last 3 years that we watched Judy fade away little by little, and they peeled away the layers, the beautiful metaphor for Judy never went away. It just became more and more evident, which was this sense of kindness and love. When I would come to visit, we all worry, right? You go to see your loved one who's losing their memory, are they not going to recognize you? And she seemed mostly to recognize us most of the time. But this is a gift to my father that says, Monsieur Pons, from Judy to my father. And when I would wear this to visit with her, we would talk, and at some point she would notice my wrist. And she would point to my wrist. And you all know what the beauty and wonder of the clasp and warmth embrace of her hand was. She would look at this with wonder and stroke my wrist so lovingly. The last days with her were really punctuated by what we got from our individual interactions with her, but as you've all felt, the strangers of the Clare came to see simply by the way she walked down the hall with my father, the two of them like giddy teenagers, hand in hand. And with time, the folks who worked in the Clare all came to see that this was something really special and really beautiful. For those of you who are here and have been their friends for a lifetime, you all have been such an important part of her story. And I think part of the beauty of what you alluded to, Henry, is because of the connectedness, as my father had, was this sense to reach out to people and to bring this sense of humanity and joy and caring that she passed on to me, and then also challenged me as Al had lived as an example, passed that on to Mel, who passed it on to me, who's passed it on to their children. It isn't just in the healthcare setting. This beautiful thing that she had about this genuineness and caring is really a beautiful, beautiful legacy. In some ways, I've thought a lot about the wonder of the spirit that she's infused in me, and the wonder that I've had for the last month, thinking about the beauty that she's really passed on to all of us, is what is our guiding light she has shared with us, that has made the world a better place, and then given us all something. And the challenge, as I challenged the grandchildren when we talked about a month ago, to take the best of her and continue to pass that on would be the highest honor that we could pass on from her. So appreciate y'all being here.
It's my honor to invite up Lucy to continue to share some words.
Hi, I'm Judy's granddaughter, Lucy, and I wanted to say something, but I wasn't really sure what to say. And when Papa and Grandma moved out of 200 East Delaware, we each got envelopes filled of mementos, notes, things that we had sent and made for Papa and Grandma over the years, and I became the owner once again of The Princess and the Marbles, which is starring Judith Genesen. So I thought I would read this, and I think it's just a testament to her library skills, how organized she was, how much she cared about all of us and cherished our relationships. It's kind of a weird story, but here we go. I dedicate this book to the Princess and the Marble. I dedicate this book, The Princess and the Marbles, to Grandma Judy. I'll show you the pictures. It all started on a cold spring day in May. Only buds had come from the little flowers. Downtown Chicago is a nice place in spring. People swarming the streets. Business is best now. Prince Lou had gone to find his wife. He was a little short, had brown curly hair. So he went home to his large apartment at 200 East Delaware, up all the way to the 26th floor. When he got home, his loving parents, Lisa and David, the king and queen, they greeted him. They were very disappointed too. He hadn't found a wife. Just as they got inside, the power went out. Several minutes later was a knock on the door. It was a girl. She had walked up the 26 flights of stairs. As their nice nature, they let her in. She was cold and wet, so they gave her some food and a place to sleep. The young girl introduced herself as Judith Genesen. She said she was a princess, but the queen was very suspicious. So she put 3 marbles under 20 mattresses to see if she was a real princess, she would feel them under the mattresses. This is the mattresses. The next morning, the 3 royal highnesses were very excited to see how she slept. So said the queen, "How did you sleep?" "That was the worst sleep I ever had. It felt like there were marbles under my mattress." Queen Lisa was quite surprised. She didn't know what to say except to the prince, "You can marry her if you may marry her if you would really like." There was a twinkle in the prince's eye when he heard this. As fast as he could, he got to the ring and asked the girl to marry him. She said yes, but never did she tell anyone that she was really not a princess at all. She was a girl in rags. In fact, she was even a ghost. Not just a girl in rags. But her and the prince, they live happily ever after. Even to this day, the queen is still a little suspicious that they never heard from Judy's family. So, yep, that's that. Love you, Grandma.
It does seem like Judy would appreciate the laughter in this room and the smiles. And I'll invite up Jack to also share some words.
Paper free. Hello. I'm Jack. I'm Judy and Lou's grandson, and I couldn't be prouder to say that. And I know a lot of you in this room share that. Judy is the namesake of my son, Jude. He's over there having a good time. And, well, what else is there to say when you pick a name for your own children, and except you want them to embody, you want them to, not embody, but you want them to come in and spiritually share something that they too could bring into the world in the same way that their namesake would. And I can't say I knew what that was. Judy has so many marvelous qualities, as she would say. But I would say it's come over the years to pass that the love of words and language and books and stories. I'm watching Bud and Jude, and I can't help but feel Judy's spirit pulling him along and lifting him into that realm. And I feel as though I am merely blessed to watch the circle of life move in such a profound way. It was about 6 months ago, I'd be talking to my parents on the phone to say, I gotta get home to Chicago. I really gotta get home. Oh, of course, yeah, you know, get home, but you've got 2 kids, you've got a baby. Yeah, I know, but we've gotta get home. And, you know, the schedule just worked out where I said, me and Josie Lou, we're gonna go home, we're gonna come visit Chicago. I knew I had to get home, I just knew it. And me and Josie got on a plane from LA to Chicago, and the next day went straight to the Claire because I knew Judy had to meet Josie. It simply had to be done. And we got up there and into the room, and I had visited Judy several times in the time in which she had been moved into the Claire. And there was always that trepidation that I had already been before with my grandmother on my mom's side of the family. I had been through it, and yet you don't ever quite get ready for that. You're never totally braced for it, that feeling of, where are they? I know they're here, but they're not. And I always liken it to, there's the tragedy in it is having to mourn twice, because in so many ways they have left. In so many ways those incredible qualities aren't shining. But nonetheless, you have to show up, you have to be there. And so Josie and I got in that room, and I hadn't seen Judy animate like that in all the years since she had moved out of 200 East Delaware, when she looked me in the eye and I saw her again, and she said, "Oh, it's you." And I handed her Josie, and instantly, as Debbie pointed out, because she loves babies, she was there. She held her and she smiled, and I knew there was just nothing more special to her than those moments she got with the babies in her family. And as my father attested to many of you family members, pretty soon the words out of her mouth were, "I made this." And we all heard it in that room, and we all knew right then and there that was a special thing she said, because she should know that. She should carry that with her. And she should be proud, as she was. The second day we visited her, she was noticeably less animated. I have pretty ironic picture of Josie smiling in her radiant way and Judy kind of curling into herself. And I'm not the kind of person, I'm pretty optimistic, so I left just feeling like I'm so glad we got to see each other. That was wonderful. And then it would be a week later when my dad called to let me know that the ambulance had come and the time was near. And I think a few of you may have said it was so good that, or maybe some of my friends even, as I mentioned she had passed, oh, it was so, what an amazing coincidence that you were there to see her. And I thought to myself, maybe if whether or not I do believe that in that visit there was a letting go for her. In that she knew Jerry was here and safe. And she met Josie Lou and said, I think there was a letting go. And as hard as it is to be in a world that she isn't in, at least in the form we know her and have loved every day with, there's a relief that this brilliant woman doesn't have to be in that haze anymore. Because as these speeches have really highlighted, brilliant isn't even a tenth of what I wish I could ascribe to her and her genius. And that all that being said, yes, she is a role model. And yes, she is something in so many facets, something to aspire to. But more than anything, it's that warmth, that unwavering warmth that I hope I can carry with, and my family can carry with, and all of us can carry with. And I'll always look up to her.
Thank you. And finally, it's my honor to welcome up Lisa to share some words as well.
I shall now be known as Queen Lisa. I want to thank David and Patty. More? I want to thank David and Patty for caring for Judy in the last week of her life when she entered hospice. It allowed me to go to Denver to be with my daughter, Claire, who was getting ready to have a baby. Claire isn't here today because Jerry was born a month ago, but she's on Zoom. Hi, Clary. As you've heard, Judy was efficient and organized. The apartment was always decluttered, and everything was in her place. And as we were going through her things, I found a program from 2004 from a Friday night service. Dad and Judy were regulars here, coming for spiritual more than social reasons. And on the back, in 2004, she circled a passage and she wrote, "I love this." So this is from Judy to all of you today. There are stars up above, so far away we can only see their light, long, long after the star itself is gone. And so it is with the people that we loved. Their memories keep shining ever brightly, though their time with us is done. But the stars that light up the darkest nights, these are the lights that guide us as we live our days. These are the ways we remember.
Hi, I'm Kelly. I am Judy's granddaughter, and I know we've heard so many wonderful speeches, and I have a few words that I wanted to share. So there's a specific time in my life where if you ask me about my grandma, I'd say she is everything that I aspire to be. Active, social, stylish, a total class act. But she also cannot stop talking about me getting married. Judith Genesen was a great example of the Jewish grandmother. I'm not even going to get started on how often she reminded us to wash our hands. But she was relentless about all of us finding a partner. One time, when I was in college, she pulled me aside and said, "You know, I got married at 18 and it wasn't that strange." One Thanksgiving, she gave me the warmest embrace, and she immediately asked to look at my hands and look at my jewelry. When she didn't see a diamond ring, she said, "Oh, pretty." One time, she went as far as to say, "Well, I'm not getting any younger." Claire, you'll remember this one, this was about us. But then, I saw her and Lou together in Paris, their second home. In the early days of our relationship, my husband, my now husband, John and I, we took a backpacking trip around Europe. And I promise you, no luxuries were taken. We often figured out what glorified hostel we were staying in the night before. So I had the foresight to conveniently overlap our trip with Lou and Judy's annual Parisian sojourn. I'm not saying I'm a genius or anything. This option was available to all other grandchildren. We saw the apartment that they stayed in over and over again for 20 years. They walked around the neighborhood as if they lived there for decades, smelling croissants from the windows, long walks through the gardens. They held hands like school children who didn't think that anybody was watching. We shared all of our dinners together. They took us to restaurants that you never find unless you knew. Judy and Lou always had the best taste. On our last night, we ate at a little bistro a short walk from their apartment. Over red wine and a wonderful rabbit, which I still think about to this day, I asked, "Grandma, I never heard it from you directly. How did you and Papa meet?" After some smiling and laughing, she looked at Papa and said, "Do you want to share?" And Lou smirked and said, "I wouldn't dare." She smiled. "Well, you have to understand. Stan and I were married for a long time, and I wasn't sure I'd be ready to go out again. But my friends Al and Barbara insisted that their friend Lou, recently divorced, take me to a party. I did not want to go, but they made me, and it turned out pretty well." She grabbed Papa's hand, and they looked at each other. With a hint of mist in her eyes, she said, "I am the luckiest woman in the world to have loved two great men." And then it clicked. That's why she wanted all of us to get married. She had a chance to love two great people, and she wanted all of us to experience even half of that. In her life, given all she had to fight for, the ways she had to forge her own path that everybody has shared, she never stopped believing in love and family. Up until their final days, Judy called Lou her prince, and he her princess. I look at my aunts and uncles and our cousins, our beautiful blended family. I look at all my cousins and their steadfast partners and blooming offspring. When only a week before she passed, Judy held her now second youngest great-grandchild, and she said, "I made this." And she did. She really did.
Wow, just such inspiring, meaningful, heartfelt memories. And there, in this week's Torah reading, there is a word that appears several times, and the word is simcha. And it's interesting, this word, simcha, appears once in the book of Genesis, once in the book of Exodus, once in Leviticus, and once in Numbers. And now in the book of Deuteronomy, it appears 7 times in just this 1 week's reading. And that word simcha, it means joy. Joy. But not just joy in terms of pleasure, although that's part of it. A simcha is a joy that's shared. You know, when you think about a wedding or bar bat mitzvah. It's called a simcha because it's shared with family and friends. You can't really have a simcha alone. A simcha is something shared. And it's a sense of joy in life. And just this picture on the front of our pamphlet made me think of the word simcha. That smile that Judy had, a sparkling smile, a smile of intelligence, kindness. And I was lucky enough when I was one of the rabbis here many years ago to experience that simcha, that joy, so many times. In fact, just going back in the library, I remembered sometimes on a Friday afternoon before services, I would go up to the library. I don't know if I was finishing a sermon or looking for something, and almost all the time, Judy and Lou would be there. I think maybe that was the time, because she was managing the library as a volunteer, that she would be going through books, and we would just have the most wonderful conversations. She would ask me what I was looking at, what books I was looking at, and then she would ask me, is there anything you want for the library? It was, you could tell not only her kindness as a person, but her love of books, her love of libraries. And I was thinking about that love, and in the context of Judaism. And we are called, I'm sure everyone here knows, we're called the people of the book. What's interesting is that description, people of the book, actually comes from the Quran, where Jews are referred to as the people of the book. But why are we the people of the book? It's because language, words, they make us who we are. That ideas, feelings, expressions, the words we just heard on these eulogies, they create that reality. They give us our emotions, our feelings. And that's the core of Judaism. Our Torah is made up of words. It's a book. And Judy loved books. She loved libraries. And that was the core part of who she was as a person, as a Jew, as someone who cared about her tradition. And as Lisa was remarking, she was a regular on Friday evenings. And it was for that spiritual nourishment. It was for hearing those words from our tradition. And she was a careful listener of sermons too. She would tell me if it was something good I said, and she was polite enough. I don't think I got much criticism, thankfully, but she was listening to those words. And then it was also social too, because I have so many memories, as I said at Lou's service, of going out to dinner afterwards to the late great Yoshi's. I know we went there several times, and just the charm, the insight, the wonderful conversations that we had. Ms. Judy truly was an extraordinary woman, as we heard, someone who was able to go through difficult experiences and yet come out with strength, with purpose, and with simcha, with joy, the kind of simcha we see in this picture. And in Jewish tradition, the way we honor a loved one, the way we remember them, is by saying the words Zichrona Livracha. May her memory be a blessing. And these words convey the purpose of a well-lived life. That those who know you, those who come after you, those who remember you, look to your life as a blessing, a benediction, and an inspiration. Being a blessing means that you have touched the lives of those you knew, and that you have helped them do the same for others. For her 4 children, their spouses, for her grandchildren, their spouses, for her great-grandchildren, no spouses there yet, but you know she'll be thinking about it. For all of those in her family and friends whose lives she touched and who touched hers. Zecher Tzadik Livracha. May the memory of Judy Genesen endure among us as an everlasting blessing.
So many beautiful words, memories, and smiles that again would just make her so happy. We turn back to our traditional psalms and blessings as we turn to Psalm 23, which can be found in the handout. Adonai ro'i lo echsar, bin ot desha yerbeitzeni, al me menuchot yenachaleni. We read together in the English. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Continue with traditional morning words of El Maleh Rachamim, and I invite everyone to rise for the words of El Maleh. Continue together. O God, full of compassion, thou who dwellest on high, grant perfect rest beneath the sheltering wings of thy presence, among the holy and pure who shine as the brightness of the firmament, unto the soul of Judith Genesen, who is gone unto eternity. Lord of mercy, bring her under the cover of thy wings, and let her soul be bound up in the bond of life eternal. Be God's possession, and may her repose be peace. Amen. And we remain standing for the words of Kaddish Yatom, for the words of Mourner's Kaddish, that we say as one community together, which are on the back of the packet. Yid Gadal Vid Kadash Me Rabba, Bialma Divrach Hute Viamlich Malchute, Bechayechon Uvyomechon, Uvchaye Dechol Beit Yisrael, Bagala Vizman Kariv Vimru Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabba Mevarach Leolam Omeh Almaya, Yitbarach Vishtabach Vitpa'ar Vitromam Vitnaseh, Vitadar Vitalev Vitalal Shmei Dekudesha Berechu, Le'ela Minko Birchata Veshirata, Tushbechata Venechemata, Damiram Bialma Vimru Amen. Yehi Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya, Bechayim Aleinu V'Akol Yisrael, Vimru Amen. Ose Shalom Bimromav, Uya Ase Shalom, Aleinu V'Akol Yisrael, Vimru Amen. You may be seated, and we conclude with words of peace, as even in these times of difficulty, we hope that we find comfort and peace in her memory, and moreover in something that we know that Judy loved most, which was music as well. And so we conclude with the words of Sim Shalom by Max Janowski.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the service here in the sanctuary. There'll be a gathering the first floor. There'll be a luncheon reception immediately following the service. There'll be an evening reception at the Kovacs residence at 4941 North Fairfield Avenue in Chicago. That's 5:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. Memorial contributions to the University of Chicago Laboratory Schools College Launch Endowment Fund would be appreciated. This time I ask everyone to please rise and stand in place as we escort Judith's family from the sanctuary. They're going to go to the first floor. Give them just a few moments to get a little nosh and to gather themselves, and then everyone can join them on the first floor.